point. Progress democracy is now coming up short. I can't watch while evolution falls apart. Bury me in history report. Progress democracy is now coming up short. It's my life to choose. Not bigots or misogynists, not even homeless liberals. Instead of fight to lose. I'm a modern anarchist, a punk rock existentialist who wants to make the whole world feminist. On social media, what's really going on? Opinions without action never gets anything done. And I'll be gratified by trying to play my part. Revolutionary martyrdom won't tear us apart. You can change my name to Joan of Arc. It's my right to choose. Not racist or nationalist, not this fascist president. It's their fight to lose. I'm a masochistic activist, a modern abolitionist who wants to make the whole world feminist. All my anxieties are out of hand. We need to overcome somehow. We have to stand for unifying. Together forever, the time is now. It's my life to choose. Not zealots or supremacists, not the old right separatists. It's their fight to lose. I'm a modern nihilist, a radical idealist. It's my right to choose. Not the religious lunatics or fundamental extremists. It's their fight to lose.
All right. Welcome to Another News. I'm your host, Rachel Bloomstrom. And this week I'm joined by Zach Bird and Jill Stone. We will be talking about the January 6 hearings primarily, since we have a break before we probably get a season 2, which I heard it has been renewed. So for renewals. So how are you doing today, Zach?
I am doing pretty great. I'm feeling good, looking good, ought to be in Hollywood. I got no complaints.
Yeah. You've been doing a lot of like work on this year. You getting up to where you can walk like 25 miles a day now, right? I bet you do, but you could. You could.
Well, I could. The max I've gotten is 21 miles in a day.
All right.
Maybe when it cools off a little bit, I'll be able to hit like a marathon walk pace, but not during the summer, not Florida summer.
Yeah, just preparing for that vagabond lifestyle, because I've been reading about all these like apocalypse scenarios coming together and converging, and it's going to be this decade.
Yeah. I just finished a book on the apocalypse about like this thing that was eating the sun. And it was science fiction because everyone in the world got together and helped solve the problem, which there's no way that actually happened.
That's not real. The apocalypse, yes. Working together, no.
Yes, going to another galaxy to find something to fix it, that's more believable than humanity getting together to actually build the system to do that.
Or just the rich people picking themselves to go somewhere else and then like get there and realize they don't know how to do anything. So then they got to come back and get some slaves and then go back and repopulate a new galaxy with slaves in them.
Yeah, that's not what the book was about, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I just wrote that. And Jill M. Stone, how are you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. I was in the studio earlier in the day, so that was awesome. Working on some new songs.
Awesome. Yeah, I know neither one of us hit our studios last week because Jill and I took a road trip to Toronto.
Ooh,
it was so amazing. Like, I never thought of Chicago as small. And then we get there and we're looking around and I pull up the list of the largest cities in the world, and Chicago's like 118 on the list. It's like a small, big city.
It's like a small, big city.
Yeah.
Stephen Amell?
No, I didn't get a chance to run into him, but like I said, it was like 7 million people there almost. And I don't know, something to me, like the feeling I got was like being in Oz or like the future city or this like shining, beautiful city, you know?
Emerald City.
So, yeah, something Emerald City. I mean, I don't know. It just.
Yeah, definitely like the downtown area like looked very, very, very modern. Like everything was like, glass and like had all these like lines. Like it looked like they were all like kind of done by the same architect almost.
Yeah. Well, there was like sections where it was like families of buildings of like
right. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. But it was lovely, and we stayed in a nice neighborhood, so we got a neighborhood feel, right, of kind of like what it might be like to like live in Toronto, which I really appreciated, because that's one of the things when people come to Chicago, usually they just see the Loop, right? And they kind of miss out on the neighborhood vibe. But because we were staying with one of your friends, we really did get that neighborhood feel of Toronto, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, my friend Kyle Cadogan, who I met when I was living in Hawaii, when I was in the Navy. So, of course, I opened my home up to couch surfers because Hawaii is a much coveted location. And unless you're rich, you generally can't figure out a way to stay there. So I had this like, they call it a 1-bedroom, but it was like a studio apartment, like 450 square feet. It was like closed by an accordion door. And he came with a friend of his, and my friend stayed there too. And we had such a blast, and we went hiking and we saw waterfalls together. Honestly, one of the best times I had when I was living in Hawaii was when he came to visit. And so, 11 years later, I finally went and surfed his couch. We stayed in the annex in, Toronto, and yeah, it was lovely. And by the way, the song we're going to play, he has his own podcast or radio show, and he does like local musicians who are like up and coming and puts together playlists and stuff. So we are going to be featuring a Canadian band later today for the closing of the show, and they're pretty great. So
awesome. Yeah. I look forward to hearing that.
How was the public transportation there?
It was
stellar.
Yeah.
It was stellar. Like, I mean, and very clean.
Yes, very clean. There was one person who wasn't very clean, but that was like his issue. And then, of course, you had an instigator who made it everybody's issue. That was like the only bad thing, like it kind of had some Chicago vibe, only much safer. There was no, is it fireworks or gunshots going off in our head? Like,
yeah, I think we heard like one siren the entire time we were there. It was just like
wild. But yeah, I mean, I think they were not police sirens for sure.
Ambulance.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the real heroes. But while I am still trying to get my catamaran out there in the universe, I'm also willing to accept a proposal from anybody in Toronto who would like me as a live-in roommate for a little while I still work that out. Just putting that out there too. Yeah. So this week, all of the hearings wrapped up last week. So that's definitely what we're going to be talking about. But before we get there, I wanted to bring up, there was this poll done by Pew Research, and I just grabbed a few of the numbers. So they had like polled Republicans and Democrats on what they thought about their candidates, and 67% of the GOP wanted Trump to stay in politics, but only 44% wanted him to run for president. The rest of them just wanted him to be a figure, but like,
behind the scenes.
Yeah, or very loudly on TV, but just so and how that broke down is 44 want him to run for president, 22 want him to support another candidate, but 32% of them don't want him to remain a major political figure at all, which I feel is pretty substantial. That's 33%, basically a third of the base. So I think that's interesting. And I think that the hearings are finally starting to put pressure. And as I've been hearing on Fox News, Rupert Murdoch has been not featuring Trump primarily he's switched to DeSantis, and they're calling him the man of the hour. And, they're really pushing DeSantis, which to me is pretty scary because that guy is a lot
smarter than Trump.
Yes, he's smarter. He's more organized. He's a lot more politically savvy.
He's younger too, so he's probably going to live a lot longer than Trump.
Oh yeah,
10 years looking him.
Yeah, somebody was talking about how it's got to bother him that he's younger and better looking, and I was like, but it's true. But I don't know if that means there's like a tiff between him and Rupert Murdoch or what. But as of right now, the big man behind the GOP who gets them all their airtime is leaning into DeSantis. And, we've talked about, especially for the last coming month, I've mentioned several times, like it's gonna be DeSantis.
I think they just kind of decided that Trump is too toxic right now, maybe with all the January 6th stuff. I mean, now the DOJ is actually starting to look like they're doing something. So, I think people are really wanting to distance themselves from Trump, especially those that were close to him.
Yeah, at least for the time being, maybe after midterms and they take a look at how things shook out, they'll figure it out, because I don't think it will be easy to take these violent, malicious MAGA supporters. I don't know how easily they'll be pushed over to DeSantis without Trump's marching orders, honestly.
Yeah,
so
he's not going to give them.
I don't think so either. So
he reported something on Fox on his Truth Social side, talking about him, like he was talking about Fox and Friends, how they've gone down the hill and turned to the dark side. They started bringing up these numbers.
Well, so that's kind of good news, because also Marjorie Taylor Greene was bad mouthing some of the, the older GOP, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. I mean, and how they lied to her, which is true. They're liars. But if we're seeing this major strife there already, and then also we're seeing two lead candidates, and versus like the older school, new school, and violent groups. I don't know. It's a scary moment.
Yeah, I'm curious if your Pew Research poll, does it say how Democrats feel about Biden?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to next. Glad you asked.
All right.
75% of Democrats want someone other than Biden to run for the next election.
Oh, God.
55% of Republicans want someone other than Trump to run. So that's the majority. Most of us don't want either of our lead candidates. We never wanted Biden. We didn't.
Yeah.
And frankly, I feel like we should have just let the man retire. He's very old.
Yeah.
Like we had two septuagenarians as like the leads of the GOP and the Democrats. Like it's we need some young blood in there.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like people are like, well, Biden is proposing good things, and like kinda, but he's ineffective. And we watched an entire term of Trump pass executive order after executive order, and the Democrats are then responding softly. Like, can we go ahead and add more seats to the Supreme Court? Let's just go ahead and issue an executive order that all federal buildings, I don't know, can allow abortion. Let's do some things to ensure that people are safe and their rights are protected in this moment until we have our slow bureaucracy catch up.
Yeah, Biden is not that radical, man. He's not gonna go too far out on the ledge, right?
No.
He's not for radical change.
Well, and that's because they represent the billionaire class, just like all of these old Democrats. They are there keeping the current system the way it is, and that's their entire goal. Like, he wants to appease people enough to like make them stop coming after them, and hopefully we'll forget about how crazy and unequal the economy is in this country. And it's just, I don't think, once you break a mirror, you can't put it back together. So once all these people have woken up and seen, oh, it's really this bad, like, oh, millennials only have 5% of the wealth. oh, like a handful of people have like 80% of the wealth in the world. Like, you know, I think a large group of people see that now, and I just don't, you just can't put that back together.
No.
Yeah.
But, and then I've been for whatever reason listening to like podcasts and stuff about books about all of the various apocalypse scenarios and like them converging. And so there was this book, I got to tell you all about this real quick. It is called, or two of them. One of them is called The End of the World is Just the Beginning, Mapping the Collapse of Globalization. And the other one is Sold Out, How Broken Supply Chains, Surging Inflation, and Political Instability Will Sink the Global Economy. And in these books, it kind of lays out this kind of horrifying future we're seeing, that this global market's going to collapse. Very likely we will end up in an imperialist rule because we have an aging population and a small, birth population. And gosh, I don't even think I can like summarize this closely, but here's the bad news. Last year in America, you're probably going to be subjugated to American imperialism. It's very likely that that's what will happen. And millennials are the only generation large enough to produce another population to keep America. We are poised in the position because our baby boomers, there were so many of them, and then they had so many kids. And even though us millennials, we don't have anything, we're the only population in our age group to make a population large enough in order to maintain this kind of system and specialization.
Somewhat democracy.
Oh, no. You can kiss democracy goodbye. Slavery is definitely coming back somewhere.
Oh, no.
I mean, they're already working on it here. I mean, if we really want to look at the numbers of what's going to happen, when you have if they're going to force all these babies to be born and we have labor shortages and we have food shortages, that's going to make the competition for a job even greater, which means they can lower how much they pay us because people will work for anything because they're desperate. They'll create, an environment of desperation, hungry people. And, unless they get together and can face the American military, assuming that it sides on the side of that.
So it's a good time to turn to crime.
Yes. Speaking of my catamaran, really want to be a pirate, y'all. Please help me. You can, though, however, support the show, though. If you do go to my Patreon, it is at Rachel Bloomstrom. If you would like to donate a one-time fee to the show, it'd be great. A lot of work goes into the show, and we do try to bring you a lot of information that may not otherwise be available and bring you perspectives that mainstream media doesn't bring. So just want to toss that out there. Would love your support. Even if it's $2 a month, it makes the hugest difference in the world because this is a nonprofit station. So, yeah. Couple other things real quick. For Black Lives Matters News, Brittany Griner and Paul Whelan, they're still working on that negotiation with Victor Blut. And, he's the one who was selling weapons in order to have them kill Americans. But it looks like we don't have much of a choice. That's what we're going to have to trade. Any thoughts on that, y'all? We've talked about it a few times, I know.
I have nothing new to say about it.
Yeah, there's been, they keep acting like there's new movement, but literally it's just the people just staying on camera saying, no, we're trying. We're thinking about it every day. And I'm like, why isn't it that?
I do think that, there is a point, usually these are like back channel discussions, and I think most likely the Biden administration put it out there that the trade was on the table as a means to kind of pressure the Russians to trade the two for Victor Blount, because they don't normally talk about it.
Well, yeah, because one of the things is they don't want to encourage the taking of hostages in order to negotiate getting people back. They really don't want to do that. That's not something we generally want to do. But this is one of our gold medalist athletes, like world star. Like you can't ignore that. Right. But the problem is they've been dragging their feet because they don't want to give this guy up. They don't want to give, what was he, the
war criminal who's like the Prophet of Death, wasn't it? The Prophet of Death? Or
the war weapon. Yeah. What's his name?
No, it's a dope name.
Yeah. Check it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Master of Death.
Something about like master weapons, war profiteer of death, like arbiter of death. Is it arbiter? I don't know. We'll find out in a second. But yeah, I mean, it's Victor of Loot.
Victor.
Just type in like Brittany Griner, prisoner swap, Victor, and then just go from there because I don't even remember how to spell his last name. And while we're looking that up for LGBTQIA plus news, I don't know, did y'all hear what Matt Gaetz said at his stupid rally he had where he was talking about why is it only the ugliest fat women are the ones complaining about give me my abortion because nobody would want to touch you or whatever. I don't want to play it. I don't want to give him any more airtime than he already got. Well, this woman, her name is Olivia Juliana. And last time she ended up a target, she set up this website to raise funds for abortion funds. And when he did, she responded to him and he went after her and it was at 250,000. And now as a result of him going after this 19-year-old girl, she set it up again and said, thank you. You just helped raise another $500,000 to go towards abortion funding, which is this lump abortion group that sends and distributes the money equally to various charities. And
yeah, I think last count,
Lord of War.
Lord of War?
Lord of War.
Merchant of Death is what I got.
Oh, Merchant of Death. That's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway, the young lady you were talking about, I think she, last I checked, it was like 1.4 million.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's only been a few days.
Yep.
So good for Olivia. And if you are wanting to find the website, I will be posting the link in the YouTube doobly-doo. And so you can definitely go and donate. And it spreads the funds out pretty equally to various locations. And it's a really great thing, especially to see like the resilience of Gen Z be like, oh, you're going to attack me. Let me use this limelight for good against your evil.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking of evil, I don't know if you saw Marjorie Taylor Greene posted just earlier today on her Twitter about the kids at Uvalde. They needed a JR-15 to defend themselves. So she's pushing guns in the classrooms for kids.
What?
Yeah.
Talk about a merchant of death.
Yeah. Smaller, safer, lighter. The JR-15. Get them one like yours.
Oh my God.
That's actually on her Twitter page.
Like a junior AR-15. Oh
yes.
My God.
Sounds like my size AR-15 though.
Yeah, I'll show it to you quick. So it is I can't show it, but yeah. See, the kids at Uvalde needed a JR-15 to defend themselves from the evil maniacs that didn't care about laws. At least they could have defended themselves since no one else did, while the parents were held back by police. Give the guns to the government and they'll protect you.
But she didn't speak against the police.
No.
Okay then. And I just
she did. She kind of did.
She just said, well, the police held the parents back, but
yeah,
she didn't really like.
So that's what it is right there.
God, I wonder what kind of kickback she gets from selling those.
Oh my God.
How big is it? How many inches? Is that 12?
See, where's the size at? Here's the size, the 30 inches.
It's still pretty big.
It's about as big as a kid.
Can you imagine like having a classroom of little like fourth graders and everybody's got a backpack and one of these things?
Oh, yeah, M14 is smaller than this.
Yeah, it's a 16-inch barrel.
That's bigger than the ones that our soldiers use out in the field, like boots on ground. Most of them carry an M14, which is a 14-inch barrel. On my ship, we carried M16s. But you can't even use them in tight spaces. That is a disaster. Look, there's a reason we get training in the military, because when you are in tight spaces, you don't use long guns. You use handguns because that is how you get them ripped out of your hands. And we're going to expect kids to understand this tactily. Not to mention, we want them to be carrying them around while they get bullied. This is insane.
Like, we're trying to prevent school shooting. This is not the answer for that. Like, why would you try to push this? Like, this is not solving a problem. This is creating more problems. But it's ridiculous. I'm gonna stop sharing, but yeah, it's ridiculous. That's what I just saw. That's like how like what's their thought process here?
Gun sales.
I guess, yeah.
Well, and I guess like, if they are going to replace the population with kids who are going to end up being fostered and adopted by evangelical parents to be raised and indoctrinated into this new theological order, then it doesn't matter if they kill all the kids who are already too old to get indoctrinated, right? Is that?
Yeah. What's even gross is like those little skull and crossbones on there with pacifiers in them. Like, it's ridiculous. It was on the poster.
This is real life.
Yeah.
This is real.
This is not an Onion article. This is not Idiocracy. This is America in 2020.
Right.
God, I'm sick. That makes me sick.
It
does. It's like, I don't know.
That makes me sick.
Like the
representatives, American representatives, public Twitter page. That's what's being pushed out there.
I'm for freedom of speech, but I'm also for consequences of that speech. And I hope that they do go after Donald Trump very hard so that we can show that there are consequences for the words that you say when you incite violence, and open up a doorway in order to prosecute all of these people. And I still don't understand why she hasn't been investigated as the pipe bomber for January 6th, when they have footage and FBI and body language experts saying this person walking is identical to Marjorie Taylor Greene walking, and they play the videos next to each other. And yet we haven't even heard about that in all of these hearings.
Well, maybe that'll be in season 2.
I guess. But in the meantime, but in the meantime, like, all of this is still happening to me, and I laugh and I'm like, oh, season 2. But the thing is, it feels so empty. Like we know, we actually knew it was coming. I don't know if any of you have been following me on TikTok for a while, but definitely, we knew that they were going to do this insurrection. They were talking about it openly. We had all this information. They had mini rallies in between. I have this article.
And I remember when I was staying with you, and like we talked about, like, something was going to happen. Like you mentioned it frankly all the way up till it happened.
Yeah, so, definitely. And I think people, I'm a little irritated that these hearings haven't talked about all of the steps coming up to January 6th, because I pulled this article up because they put it together more distinctly and I didn't have like everything written down. But from the World Socialist website on October 1st, 2020, they posted this article called Trump's Operation Dictatorship, What the Debate Exposed. So this was after that final presidential debate when Trump was serious about the threats he made during that debate. And they said he was as serious as Hitler was about those he wrote during Mein Kampf. And Trump...
It's more for the Proud Boys to stand by. So that one, that's the debate?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. They said, quote, Trump views the November election as a continuation of the political coup d'etat that began last June in Washington, D.C., when he unleashed military and police forces against peaceful protesters. Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war has been his operation for over a year preceding the January 6th insurrection. They laid out the steps on how it would unfold, though it was already kind of unfolding when they wrote this. But first, during the remaining month of the election, Trump will do everything he can to discredit the voting process with the intention of delegitimizing the counting of ballot, which he fully expects will show that he lost the election by millions of votes. They already knew they would probably lose by that much. Second, and mind you, this was written in October 1st, 2020. And there's other people on TikTok who were also very much reporting on this. And we were pulling clips from these insurrectionists, some of them directly. Like a lot of people on TikTok help identify the the rioters, because we'd been watching their videos telling us, oh, keep your eyes open for January 6th. We're going to do it. Like, nobody stopped it. They knew it was coming. So second, on election night, Trump will declare that he is the winner, claiming that all ballots cast through the mail are illegitimate. And he repeated that during the presidential debate. Third, Trump will use the 10 weeks between Election Day on November 3rd and the inauguration on January 20th to mobilize his followers in the streets while turning to stacked Supreme Courts to decide the election in his favor, which we did see unfold. Clarence Thomas also being highly influenced by Jenny Thomas. And he was counting on the court to look at the ballots. Quote, he has the full support of the Republican Party, and Amy Coney Barrett. Oh, I'm sorry. He has the full support of the Republican Party, which is pressing forward the rapid confirmation of Trump's Supreme Court nominees, including Amy Coney Barrett, so that she will be in a position to cast a deciding vote in any court decision on the election. And the fact that Democrats let that happen, to me, is where I'm like, why are people relying on Democrats? They are letting this happen. They have been letting it happen every step of the way. Like I've heard liberals and Democrats be like, how do we get here? And I'm like, step by step, by effing step. We watched it.
Yeah.
Trump is also, they said Trump was also counting on the support within the police and sections of the military, obviously, as well as control over the Department of Homeland Security. The Washington Post had reported that Acting Secretary Chad Wolf, a Trump crony, is preparing immigration raids by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in sanctuary cities such as Denver, Philadelphia. And I know we are definitely dealing with that here in Chicago. We have a lot of, in my neighborhood in Rogers Parks, we have actually a prison for these people. And we have, there's a whole system set up to like protect people from ICE because...
Interestingly enough, Chad Wolf is one of the people that his texts from prior to the run up to January 6th are missing. I mean, they got deleted. He's another one of those people. There's like a whole bunch of them now. Like they all like
the fact that any of them still have their position. They should, at the very least, they should be put on leave without pay while they are investigated.
Yeah.
But so should all of these Congress people. Yeah. Anyways, finally, and the most critical of all for the success of his conspiracy, Trump has factored in the spinelessness of the Democratic Party. He fully expects that the Democrats, apart from mouthing a few empty threats, will do nothing to stop him. And that is true. The abject bankruptcy of the Democratic Party was on display. Like, what basically, the Democratic Party, their role has been to downplay everything, that all of these warnings, particularly coming from leftists. Yeah. And that's it. They haven't done anything else. They haven't stopped it. They've allowed it. They voted for it. They voted Amy Coney Barrett in.
Yeah.
I know.
No, I mean,
deep breath, everyone.
Trump is one of those, particular type of, I don't know, sociopaths that kind of announces everything. I mean, he does everything out in the open, pretty much. Yeah. Like all of his criminal activity, he pretty much just blusters his way through announcing everything that he's going to do, and then he does it, and then people are surprised. It's like, oh, yeah. Really? You committed a crime? Yeah, because I said I was going to, and then I did.
Yeah. Well, I do want to recommend, so I will be linking this article as well, because this is a really great website if you haven't been fully propagandized into like freaking out when you see the word socialist, because this article is nothing about socialism. This article is simply, it laid out the strategy in clear form, and it also talks about strategy to fix it. And if we get to it, we can come back to it. But I do want to get to the hearings. So again, the article is called Trump's Operation Dictatorship, What the Debate Exposed. And it's from World Socialist website, or WSWS.org. And it came out October 1st of 2020. It's a great article. And for people who are still a little confused about how this all played out, I think that'll help, especially since they wrote it before it all played out. So yeah, let's talk about these hearings, huh? So the hearing started on June 9th. The first one, I remember Chair Bernie Thompson said that, quote, January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup, a brazen attempt at, as one rioter put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government. Violence was no accident. It represented Trump's last stand, most desperate chance to halt the transfer of power. And I don't know, I think that at least these 8 hearings did a good job of showing it. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming. I don't understand why anybody's confused.
Well, I mean, even if you kind of know what happened, I mean, watching the hearings, I mean, there's a lot of like detail that, you know, that you learn that you're like, oh, you know, and then it's even like worse than you thought. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
Like how complicit so many people were. But that's the only way that can happen.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
Technically, even the Democrats who didn't do anything are a bit complicit.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, Zach?
For sure. I was just thinking like people just kind of want to ignore the problem. I just reread Animal Farm recently, and it's like a lot of this is sounding pretty familiar what's going on like right now, especially with this. Like they have the rules, but then they don't look at them, and they kind of just trying to change them up as they go along. And oh, so it always said that.
Yeah. And I think like as like thinking of books like Animal Farm, like everyone's like, oh, look what communism does. And like, no, that's really capitalism. Showing what fascism does.
Yeah, that was capitalism and yeah, fascism. And yeah. that was more about that than communism.
Yeah. But you ask people, they're like, oh, that's how bad communism. I'm like, that is not what. And, you know, listening to like these different, you know, right-wing morons speak, like, I think they think communism is fascism, which if you don't know, communism is an economic system and fascism is a political system. You can have fascism in communism or capitalism. And this was an aim for a fascist dictatorship to take over capitalism and reform it into a theological nightmare. Frankly.
That's what it was. Yeah. That's we're talking about Animal Farm. We're talking about what's going on.
Yes.
Yes, because it was like they had communist ideas like the seizing the means of production, but then they had the capitalist pigs take over, and they were put in charge because they were the smartest. And then they just kind of anyone who like started opposing them, they kind of slowly edged them out. And
yes. This is something I want to lean on because I've brought it up before, but people like these liberals and Democrats who are being quiet and like, all we got to do is vote. By the way, they will come after political dissidents. Once they have gotten a firm grasp on BIPOC people and LGBTQ, they will also at the same time be going after political dissidents. So you're not safe either. There's voting records. They'll know who you are.
Yeah.
You've got to fight. You have to.
Yeah.
Man, I forgot. I haven't read that book. And I think I read that book in like, I feel like I read it in 5th grade, but that can't be right.
You can read it in an afternoon. It's about 100 something pages long. Yeah, you can read it in an afternoon if you wanted to. It's not that book. Yeah.
Who wrote that again?
George Orwell.
Oh, right. George Orwell. Yeah. Why would George Orwell? Why would anybody think that's about capitalism? I mean, communism. I know.
It kind of starts out because they wanted to install a communist regime, but then, like I said, the capitalist pigs that were they put in charge, they turned it into a capitalist society, and they cared more about the money than the actual producers, the workers. So,
yeah.
That's what that
They
was.
really gave pigs a bad rap.
Yeah.
And that's
one of them was actually fine. It was Napoleon and his mouthpiece that were the Snowball was the only good pig in that because he was like, we can build this windmill and it'll make our lives easier. We can work 3 days a week. But then Napoleon took that and ran the Snowball off, and they still built the windmill. They made it think like it was his idea all along, but they still had them working all the time.
So they Edisoned him.
Yes. Yeah. It's a good read. Like if you've never read Animal Farm, I know you have. I mean, if anyone in the audience has never read Animal Farm, you can read it in the afternoon. It's pretty interesting. I'd recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few others. Maybe let's and if you're listening and you have a book recommendation, something like that, that's like a good because I feel like one of the easiest way, and I know I talk about, but speculative science fiction to me is the most important, or any speculative fiction really is the most important brand of fiction because it defamiliarizes the way we're looking at the world so that we can see clearly what these structures look like without accidentally implanting our own biases into, oh, this character is definitely supposed to be so-and-so, but they're pigs, right? They're pigs. So it's kind of hard to do that unless you already have that data. But then once you read the book, you can look and be like, oh, this is a character like this. This is, yeah. And they also predict the future pretty well, honestly.
Yeah. They ran off the humans off the farm because like the humans were abusing them. Then the pigs started becoming abusers.
Yeah.
4 legs good, 2 legs bad. They had the sheep repeating that. I guess that's where we get a lot of the terminology, like the pigs, the sheep. It came from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of stuff is historically, a lot of these like moral stories have used animals as well.
Yeah. But we can kind of went off on a tangent on Animal Farm.
Hey, it's important. It's fun. So something else that I thought, that they did really well for the first hearing is we did hear from William Barr, and he testified very clearly that he thought those claims were BS. Mark Meadows said there's no evidence. And then Ivanka even said she accepted what Barr told her. And I felt like this was a really great launching place to start using the actual words. And then, of course, we saw some new footage. We saw what the officers went through. If you remember, Officer Carolyn Edwards said that she compared the scene to a war zone, saying she was slipping on other people's blood as she fought off insurrectionists. She said, quote, "It was carnage. It was chaos. I can't even describe what I saw." And they weren't trained for that. That is, and Donald Trump let that happen. He purposely left them that way. And it wasn't, we find out that Pence is the one who called in the National Guard hours later. Which,
yeah. So this is something Trump wanted to happen. And so he was just gleefully watching TV throughout the whole thing. And meanwhile, everybody around him was saying, hey, you got to do something, but meanwhile, Mike Pence was the one on the phone trying to get, the National Guard or the police or somebody to come in. And the problem was with the National Guard, technically, only the president was supposed to be able to bring, the National Guard, call up the National Guard and bring them in. And so technically, Pence really wasn't the one that was had the legal authority to do it, but he did end up doing it. He was the one that called them in. It was not Trump.
Like, enough of people in Congress were floating the 25th Amendment idea around to take power, because obviously, like, we can't trust this maniacal dictator who's led his people to actually kill people in order to try to overthrow the government. Also, Mike, loyalist to Trump, also tried to sweep Mike Pence out of there, which would have created a huge disaster to show them running away in fear. That definitely would have felt like a win to them. And I think, as stubborn as they are to the facts, they would believe that they just overthrew the government, and that would initiate a war, which they were already saying, Civil War #2, baby. That's what they were screaming.
Well, yeah. I mean, trying to get Pence out of there, that would have meant that he could not fulfill his duty. And so it would have fallen to somebody else in the Republican House. Remember, the House at that time was held by the Republicans. And then they could have,
I thought it would go next to the speaker. Wouldn't it go follow the chain of the command? So like the person who would take control of the government. So if the president dies, then the vice president comes, and if the vice president can't do it, then the speaker of the House does it.
I think that's right.
Yeah, but I don't know if the speaker of the House would have been the one to fulfill the job of the vice president. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look that up.
I didn't pull that in here, but
they were hoping basically that Prince couldn't do his job, and so then it would just fall into the House, and then they could like create a like a constitutional crisis, and somehow extend Trump's term.
Yeah, which I've got to say, for the lawyers in the Department of Justice to stand up to Donald Trump. So we did find out that, he tried to wield them to like say that there is election fraud so that they could seize voting machines and stuff. So who was it? Rosen and Rosenberg, who opposed him. Like, that was really impressive to me, because these guys seem like they would be down for anything other than destroying democracy. Which, I don't know. Those guys, it was so funny to me. I remember watching that team of lawyers, and I was like, these guys all remind me, they're like very caricature-esque looking humans.
You were right. If the vice president can't fulfill his duties, it would fall to the Speaker of the House.
Oh, okay.
Did you see who it was at that time?
No, I'll just look at this.
Us. I think it was Democrats. I'm not really a Democrat, so I don't want to say that.
Speaker of the House 2020.
Yeah. So then on the in that first one, there was about 20 million people who tuned in. We also heard from Nick Quested. He was the documentary filmmaker, and he was following the Proud Boys, especially that day. And yeah, he had some pretty good things to say as well. If I have by the way, I have accumulated all of these different articles, so you can go look at it, and it's laid out pretty well. So you can get quick summaries. I tried to find some resources that also would like keep it pretty straight to the important stuff without the fluff, and opinions. It's sometimes hard to wade through things where like, and this was heinous. Like, we know it's heinous. Just say what happened.
So on January 3rd, 2021, Nancy Pelosi was incumbent for Speaker of the House.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I thought it came to Nancy Pelosi, which is why they were going to hang Mike Pence and kill Nancy Pelosi. Because
had to get rid of both of them.
Yes. And then it fell to a Republican after that. Who would it be? A Senate majority?
I think it'd be Senate majority.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell.
I think it would be Mitch McConnell after that. So good. No. What the second hearing, which came on June 13th, actually had a reduction of viewers, which was surprising to me. They went down to 17.7 million viewers from the first one being with 20 million. But during that hearing...
Well, it's prime time versus daytime. So first one was in prime time. The second one was in daytime.
Sure.
People working and probably can't take time off to watch the hearings.
Well, what a dumb decision.
Secretary of State's the next in line after the.
Oh, right. Secretary of State. Oh, yeah. That's still their person.
Yes. State, Treasury, Defense. It's the whole line. I have the whole line of succession in front of me now.
Yeah. Go ahead. Let's remember it again. We don't say it enough.
All right. So after Nancy Pelosi would have been the Secretary of State, then the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce.
Well, okay. So basically all Republicans, but the good news on that list was some of them were directly people opposed to Trump doing this. So I think they also, you know, it was crazy, you know, and obviously, so we had these two, oh man, one of my favorite story, the most interesting or funniest thing to me was these two competing groups who were trying to advise Trump in this fight they got in for hours the night before. Do you remember the groups? Like
was Giuliani was one of them?
Yeah, Giuliani, Mike Flynn, and that weird looking lady who was drinking Diet Dr. Pepper, like she was drinking a beer.
Yeah.
What is her name again? I can't remember.
I think it's like Sydney something.
Not Sidney Powell.
Powell. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, and then on the other side was Cipollone, Mark Meadows, and no, not Mark Meadows, Hirschman.
Can I just say Mark Meadows was MIA? He was like nowhere to be found. Okay, he wasn't like taking a stand. He was like I'm just totally checked out, man. Cipollone,
Hirschman, and which Hirschman's the one who was like, he called Mike Flynn out. Mike Flynn kept saying stuff. He's like, "You want to throw a fist, man?"
Right.
And like, I have my money on Hirschman. That guy was not kidding.
Right. Yeah. That was quite delightful.
You know, man, you can't fight in the war room.
Yes. Well, they weren't in the war room. The war room was actually set up at the Willard Hotel, which I decided, I think it's really, pardon?
I was just thinking of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah. Good callback. One thing I did want to go over real quick is because I don't think we've had a moment where they just laid straight out all of the people's names who were inside of this Willard hotel room. So Willard Intercontinental Hotel was the first war room. They actually had a second war room, and I'm trying to remember. It was at the Trump International Hotel. There was a few people who went to both, but I thought, let's go over the list of the people who were at these things. So obviously, starting in Willard, we had Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, Mike Flynn, who was at both war rooms, Roger Stone, who was at both. We have this man named John Altman, who is the founder of Faith Education Commerce United, or FEC, which is a reactionary Colorado group closely linked to the United American Defense Force, which is a far-right militia. So obviously, he's going to be communicating for them. We have John Eastman. What do y'all know about John Eastman?
Oh, he's the guy that came up with he basically wrote the memo on the fake elector scheme.
Yeah.
Like, it was all his like idea, you know, and to have Pence do this kind of illegal thing, you know, he tried to, you know.
Yeah, he came up with a little bit of the scheme. Let me tell you a little bit more about this guy because he goes deep. John Eastman is a former law professor and dean at the Chapman University School of Law, which is like a wealthy university in Orange County. He was a law clerk to Arc Reactionary Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and is the founding director of the Center for Constitutional Jurisprudence, a law firm affiliated with the far-right Claremont Institute, of which Eastman is a senior fellow. Are y'all familiar with the Claremont Institute?
No, I'm not.
Listen to this. The Claremont Institute was founded in 1979 and has provided fellowships to far-right personalities such as Fox News' Laura Ingraham and Jack Posobiec. I don't know him. A current Turning Point U.S. employee and former correspondent for the One American News Network, which, by the way, they're getting canceled by Verizon.
I heard about that. They're asking Democrats for help. Like, hey, like, yeah, sure. The people we've been trashing for the past.
Maybe I should. Oh man, it's on my other computer. I have her speech begging. It's so funny. Yeah. He also was one of the speakers at the Save America rally headed by Trump. And he was the author of the memo to Mike Pence outlining Pence's supposed constitutional power. So that's true.
He also got somebody inside the DOJ, somebody to work with the environmental guy. I can't remember his name, but he was the one that was trying to get the acting attorney general fired so that he could like take his place and
Clark
send out the letter to Georgia and other Clark. Yeah, that was his name. Clark.
Who basically
but there was another guy, the Eastman, who was an Eastman guy who got, put into the DOJ temporarily under Clark.
Yeah.
And that's who they think actually wrote that letter, because Clark probably couldn't come up with it on his own.
Yeah. I feel like if I was going to cast in a movie, like I haven't seen what Clark looks like yet, but I'm thinking of Game of Thrones and the like yes man to Cersei, who also helped build Gregor Clegane, like take away the talent. And that's what that guy looks like in my head. Because that guy was like a brilliant scientist, evil, but good. I don't know. Anyways, that's how I picture him.
I think everybody agreed from the DOJ side that Clark was less than brilliant.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Oh yeah, and that's why there was gonna be a mass group of them walk out if they tried to appoint him. There was no way any of them were gonna stay.
Exactly. I mean, he never even like litigated anything.
Yeah. He just wanted to be a lapdog. He would have done it. He basically was like, I'll do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Just an opportunist, just a leech. Obviously, Rudy Giuliani was there. I don't know if y'all need to know anything about him. I'm looking to see if I had any good notes.
I think we know enough about Rudy Giuliani.
I think, everybody knows a little something.
The biggest fall from grace in American history.
Oh, the Overstock guy was in that in the big fight.
Yes,
the Overstock guy. Yeah, and Cipollone was like, "Who are you?" I'm the Overstock guy.
Yeah, I've seen a few people like act that out in a sketch, but using his actual words, and it's pretty funny. It's like he walks in, he was like, "Oh, actually, no, I walked in." So you see the person walk in again, be like, "Who? Yeah, who are you?" Yeah, so I have here in a November 19th press conference, Giuliani announced the team that would be challenging the election results in court, which was Giuliani's doing. And that team included Victoria Toensing, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, and Joseph DiGenova. And DiGenova appeared on a far-right Newsmax podcast a few weeks later and called for the former Directory of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agent, which is CISA, Chris Krebs, to be, quote, drawn and quartered, taken out at dawn and shot for stating that the 2020 election was free of manipulation. So that was that team. In the meantime, Giuliani and Ellis were pressuring Republican state lawmakers to unilaterally overturn the results in states, obviously. And we saw what that looked like. I believe it was the fourth hearing. The mother and daughter team, and then the man in Arizona who Trump himself was trying to persuade. Do you remember this hearing? Where the mother-daughter team in Georgia who were just there, they were election counters or whatever, and their life has been, they've had to move because they were in so much danger. They can't go. The woman has PTSD, but also she's still in severe crisis and in danger. Like, she's afraid to leave anywhere. She said it affected her life in every way. And I mean, when
that was a very powerful, moving, part of the hearings, because I mean, they were just regular people, regular people who the most powerful person in the country, like, went after them.
Yeah.
Calling them by name and like sicking all of his minions on them. and they come into their house, terrorizing them.
He put a hit out on them.
Yeah, basically, pretty much doxed them. Like if that was a regular person, they'd be in jail for doing something like that.
For that alone. Well, so apparently there might be charges being pressed from Georgia to Trump over some of those things, because I mean he basically, you know, called for them to be harmed or maimed in any way.
Yeah.
I did want to like at that time also on January 2nd, 2021, Trump and Giuliani and Eastman all spoke to 300 state legislators on a conference call to provide, quote, evidence of fraud and galvanize the lawmakers to decertify the election results. Trump told them, you have the real power. You're the ones who are going to make the decision. You know, he just kept pushing that narrative around. Oh, no, you don't have it. Fine. Then Pence has it. Oh, Pence isn't going to do it. Well, you know, maybe he should be hanged. Just crazy. Another person in that war room is Bernard Kerik, and he is the former New York police commissioner under Giuliani and his longtime political crony. So he's long rumored to be tied to organized crime. He was the driver and bodyguard for Giuliani during his campaign for mayor in 1993. In 2004, Kerik was nominated by former President George W. Bush to head the Department of Homeland Security, but was forced to withdraw after allegations of corruption emerged. Kerik was subsequently convicted of tax fraud and perjury and was pardoned by Trump in 2020. So, of course, he's on that team.
Yeah, it seems like everybody, everybody in his little circle he had to pardon.
Yeah, and
it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I started a list on last episode of who. That's that. The people who asked for pardons. There was so much news last time we were here. We didn't even get through it. Let me find this.
It's a week you miss a lot.
Bo Brooks from Alabama, Matt Gaetz from Florida. Can y'all hear that car?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in the studio upstairs, and that is a car on the street. That is crazy that I can hear. I could feel it in here. Somebody.
It's somebody's muffler like that.
Yeah.
Somebody needs some attention.
Oh, they want that. Some people want their cars that loud.
You know, it's weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, like I'm trying to read a book.
We're live, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, here's some of the ones who asked for the pardon: Mo Brooks of Alabama, Matt Gaetz of Florida, Andy Biggs of Arizona, Louis Gohmert of Texas, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wasn't even in office yet. So yeah, actually, I think we did mostly go over that list. Anyway, so another person in the room, Boris. Okay, I might not say this right. Maybe it is just Epstein. It's spelled Epshteyn. They are a Russian-American Republican political operative who immigrated to the United States in 1993 following the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Epstein graduated from Georgetown University of Foreign Service in 2004, and in 2008 served as communication aide in the McCain-Palin presidential campaign. In 2016, he joined the Trump campaign as a media surrogate.
So
these were all folks in the war room.
Yes, this is all people who were in the Willard War Room.
Oh, wow.
And I have an article that has a lot more information on them. We just, for brevity's sake, I can't go over everything that they have done, but these are not great people. There was also Russell J. And by the way, they estimate there was like 25 to 30. I don't think I have the comprehensive list right here, but Russell J. Ramsland Jr. is co-owner of Allied Security Operations Group, a cybersecurity outfit that he has used to push election fraud conspiracy theories going back to 2018 in a November. So they knew long before him, they needed to set this up in the event that they did not win. And as it got closer, it became clearer and clearer that they wouldn't win. So that's why they ramped up saying, oh, fraud is coming. Fraud is coming. And so that way, if they won, they'd be like, oh, good, we saved democracy because we talked about it. Or if they lose, they're like, see, we told you. So they just primed everybody for these things. In a November 17th, 2020 taping of Lou Dobbs Tonight on Fox, Ramsland was the invited call-in guest. And during his 5-minute appearance, he falsely claimed that there was a stunning amount of fraud in this election and that over 3,000 precincts in Michigan had inaccurate vote counts in favor of Biden. He also propagated conspiracy surrounding Dominion voting system. And he ran for Congress in 2016, falling in the Republican primary to Pete Sessions. Sessions was one of the 147 House Republicans who voted to overturn the election results after the attack on the Capitol. So it's probably an election we should be looking at, honestly.
You know, there was some, I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was some person in the Trump White House who was kind of in charge of overseeing the election. And he had come out like shortly after the election and said, yeah, it was like the safest and most, secure election, ever. Like he was like, basically, yeah, I did a great job. What are you talking about? There was no fraud, and he got fired.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like all these Republicans, like for long periods of time, because they know they don't win in a free and fair election, and they even this last week blocked another voting rights bill. And I was thinking I'll do a segment, not this week, but on all of the bills they have blocked recently that would help people in this country to systematically make things get worse. And they're doing that as part of the Christian dominionism thing, but it's in order to obtain power. And, just another way they can blame Democrats, even though they're the ones doing it. Why their people buy this crud over and over again, I don't know.
Yeah, they also blocked that veterans bill recently.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, to get healthcare for the burn pits.
That was particularly cruel.
Yeah.
Because they had already voted for it. And it was like they had to go back. There was some little like change. They got to change like one sentence or something like that. But it was basically the same bill. And all of the folks, that had been pushing for that bill, were there for the signing because they were like, oh, it's going to go through, it's going to pass. They were there to celebrate. And then the Republicans all voted against it and like killed the bill at the last. Oh, God, they were so mad.
Yeah,
so
I listened
mad.
to Jon Stewart's talk and he opened up with, he goes, ain't this a bia? And he said it a few times. And then he like apologized pretty profusely for cussing. And then as his speech went on, he just started cussing more and more because he couldn't contain it. And he quit apologizing and he's like near tears. And it is disgusting. It is disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the same thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. Last time, Zach and I were talking about the American Marine who had been taken hostage, and they blocked bills in order to just bring home our veterans from Russia.
Yeah, so when Republicans say that they care about veterans and soldiers, they're lying. Because their actions don't match their words.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. All they care about is the war machine. Selling guns. Maybe that is why they're happy to let the merchant of death go, because whatever, this will keep the war going, right?
Well, didn't Jon Stewart have a good line though, like about that? He said, the Republicans, or maybe it wasn't Republicans, maybe he just said Congress, but whatever. Never met a war they didn't like, and then what was the second part? Never. He
said Republicans, but Democrats included.
Yeah, right. Never met a war they didn't like, and never met a veteran they didn't screw over, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. I got to tell you, when Trump took office, almost immediately, he slashed the VA funding in near half. And all of the problems that the VA had, including the long wait list that they called death list, because people would die waiting for care, all of that had been fixed, he undid almost immediately. Like there is, for example, at North Chicago VA, there is one doctor per department in some instances, and that hospital sees over 100,000 patients a year. Like, I have 2 torts filed against them. They're neglecting to care for people, and some people had it way worse than me, but it's a bad situation. And the problem was, go ahead, Zach.
I'm saying, imagine like one person for each department, like 100,000 people.
Yeah, one doctor. Like they'll have like HMs and stuff, but you have one doctor, and the doctor is the one who has to sign off on everything. So good luck.
Underpaid, stressed out, like it's
turn into jerks.
Yeah. It's a machine. It's long rolling through machines, trying to get through. It's all the hospitals are up to them.
Well, I think the biggest problem was the VA ended up functioning so well that it was by 2016 that it was a great example of what medical care for like Medicare for all would look like, and that we could make it function and that we could do it in a cost-effective way. And they don't want people to see that we can have a socialized medical system in this country that works, because that's billions of dollars they would lose in the drug industry and the insurance industry. Like they're just putting in their back pockets. They're there to protect those guys, not to protect those of us who need healthcare. So that's why they did it. And that's why they don't care, because they don't want Americans to know that this is really not that hard to do. And we already have a functional system to do this. So anyways, back to the war room. We had Christina Bobb is currently a host and a reporter on the Fascist One America News Network. She's a lawyer by trade and has worked for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as an executive secretary. And prior to working for DHS, she was a judge advocate in the United States Marine Corps. Her time on active duty, she was an attorney in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, where, according to her OAN, she assisted the, quote, command in all legal matters relating to operations and intelligence. She also mobilized to Marine Corps forces Europe and Africa and Stuttgart, Germany. I'm sorry about that. As operations officer. In this role, she was responsible for briefing senior leadership, blah, blah, blah. But she repeated Trump's election lies up and up. And so they're like, yeah, come on, let's get you in here. So Philip Luelsdorf. It's Luelsdorf. Luelsdorf. I don't know. In my head, I've just turned him into like one of those little like gnomes that come out at night and like, picture shoes. That's what that name sounds like to me. He's a director. Oh no. He's a director of business development for First Amendment Praetorian, a fascist paramilitary security group that has provided security for far-right politicians and fascist rallies, including a QAnon convention this last May in Dallas, the online group Capital Hunters, which has curated and organized crowdsourced information regarding the January 6th coup, reported that Luelsdorf's mother, Baroness von Luelsdorf, claimed to be an exiled Russian aristocrat. There's a lot of Russians.
Where do they get these people?
I don't know. But these are just definitely some of the people I wanted to highlight, like to see where they're coming from. And obviously that's not the extensive list, because they estimate like 25 to 30. And I don't think they've released everybody's name. Obviously Sidney Powell was there. Mike Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the other names. But yeah, I definitely wanted to highlight some of these people because we're not hearing their names, but I think it's important that we know that they're having literal fascists, people who absolutely are pro-fascism. They're ready to fight. That was one of the things I liked. One of the testimonies was from that man who was a journalist who then got involved with not the Proud Boys, the other ones, the Bundys, the Oath Keepers. Thank you.
Oath Keepers, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought his testimony was great because what he talked about was that this is a group of people who have just practiced their whole life to overthrow the government. Like, that's what they want. They want to be able to just patrol around and police people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they want to do it under their own authority. And they're just nuts. And he had joined for a little while and he left. And, you know, especially when he realized how dangerous it was, you know, I think at first he thought like they're just playing, but like they're not playing. No. These are also the same people who had the Bundy standoff.
Yeah.
What were those two instances called?
One thing was about all of these different militias. You know, one of the analysts, I guess, who was kind of watching all of this happen. You know, in the Twitterverse, in the chat room world, or what, you know, analyzing, you know, he was an analyst, and, you know, he started seeing in the run up to January 6th that all of these like separate groups who, you know, had their own agendas and, you know, their own little, like, you know, white supremacy reasons for doing what they're doing, whatever.
Male supremacy groups, white supremacy groups.
Right. But whatever, they all started working together because now they had a goal.
Yeah.
January 6th thing, Trump was their dear leader and he wanted them to come and help, you know, basically overthrow the government for him. Help me with my coup, guys. And they all like showed up and started working together. And like, you know, that was one of the things with that documentarian was, you know, they actually showed the meeting of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys in the underground parking garage. I mean, like, yes. Really, this was so like cinematic. This was like,
how scary is it?
Right?
Like, that is some scary journalism. Like, thank you for getting that footage. That was honestly, those people are just poised for violence. They were there for violence. They were ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, I can't remember who the guy's name you're talking about, but, you know, he was talking about how when you see groups coming together like this, that's a very serious, scary thing. And now they have united under a common cause, which is why, you know, there's, in my mind, question over, they are loyal to Trump. But the GOP is starting to like put a little distance because this is so messy and they're grooming DeSantis, but they can't do it without these MAGA supporters.
Yeah. I mean, I would hate to attend their, what do they call that thing where all the people conventions? I would hate to attend their convention because it might be a blood sport.
Right. Well, so
sure.
What'd you say, Zach?
It'd be a sausage fest for sure.
Yes, for sure. With a few pick-me's there. So something to note about that is there was this book that came out in the 70s called The Turner Diaries. And it was written by a KKK member. And it's basically a strategy book. I've been trying to get a hold of it. The only ones I can find are like a few $100s. There was like only one publishing, and it's basically the strategy of the alt-right. And that is the idea to make these small groups that aren't together and aren't interconnected so that you can't tie them together. And the whole goal is largely about white supremacy, committing small acts of terror in your areas, keeping people on guard. So some people claim that Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma Unabomber, he claimed to kind of be the first strike of war when he did that in Oklahoma. And he could honestly say, no, he did it alone. But that's not entirely true because there's all these white supremacists who are using the same book and strategy, and they support each other. As we can see, even though all of these far right militias, and we haven't even named them all, I should probably put out a list of all of them. God, well, it'd be exhausting. Southern Poverty Law Center has a good list going. So basically, I'll just read Southern Poverty Law Center because they do great work on that. But they are working together. They are working together towards a common goal without having communicating with each other, so that it convinces people like, oh, it's just this one small group. Oh, it's just this one small group. Well, not exactly. All these small groups are working towards the same common goal. And they have all quietly, secretly agreed that we're not going to mix too much because we don't want to draw too much attention. It's much easier to get away with having one small dedicated militia group and people would be like, okay, they're isolated all by themselves, than to realize this is actually a huge network of white supremacist militias who are poised and ready to unite at any time. And
yeah, wasn't there one recently? I don't think they were able to execute what they wanted to do, but there was a whole bunch of them. I think it was something frontline, or I don't know what they were called, but they were in a truck. You remember, Zach?
Yeah, I remember talking about. We talked about it a few weeks ago on the show. Patriot Front.
Yeah,
Patriot Front. That's the one. And they all showed up in the same kind of uniform in a truck in the back of a U-Haul
at a pride event.
And then they got arrested.
Lucky that somebody saw them loading up into that thing. But they're not the only Patriot Front group. There's a few of them in different cities. They're their own.
Right.
Somebody on TikTok found them and started chasing them, and I have the videos if you want to see them. Some of them got taken down because obviously they want to protect them. But there's this guy and his girlfriend chasing him like, cowards, run away. And they're like, some of them are literally running away to not be caught. And only a couple of them are showing their faces. And then the cops are there peacefully chatting away with them because they're buddies. Obviously, they don't care. Yeah, Patriot Front is kind of new, I think, though. It seems like a lot of younger guys who don't know how to march. I watch them stamp their little feet. Oh. Like, if you want to play at military, just join the military.
Yeah.
Or don't.
Or don't, please, actually.
And don't.
Don't. And also don't join a militia. Just stay home and play video games or something.
Stay on COD. Stay on COD and keep it there.
Yeah.
Yell at each other, yell at your racist remarks in your chat rooms.
Oh, man. Yeah. So let's see. We haven't talked about I think the biggest bombshell hearing, which is the one with, oh my gosh, I can't believe I blanked on her name. Cassidy Hutchinson.
Yep. Yeah.
Cassidy, what a great testimony. And so thankful that we can have hearsay in these hearings.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was about the Secret Service, correct? Talking about like how, okay.
So Cassidy Hutchinson was like the aide, like the young aide to Mark Meadows. So she was always in the room, everywhere. And like, I guess they all liked her. She seemed pretty likable. She was pretty. She was mature, and she definitely, you could tell she's groomed her language very well. And she's very careful on the words she says already. And she just, I'm so excited. She just spilled the beans. She told all of it. And it led to Pat Cipollone coming out and having to speak, which was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, her testimony was so powerful.
Yeah. You want to give us a little brief rundown of what we learned from Cassidy Hutchinson?
Let me see if I can remember everything. It was a lot. Yeah. But, from her, we learned that Trump actually wanted to go with the crowd, right? The crowd that was armed, that Trump knew was armed. He wanted to go to the steps of the Capitol with them. And Lord only knows what he wanted to do there. I guess he wanted to give a speech. But,
I mean, with him being present, just imagine how energized they would be. They would know.
They already were.
Right. Yeah. But they didn't bring out any heavy weapons at that time. And they were there. Mostly they were just doing like medieval style combat. Mm-hmm. But I imagine had Trump been there, like they would have come to an even higher fever pitch.
Yeah.
I really do. I imagine it would have been much more bloody and much more violent. And more people would have died.
Yeah. But he was actually, I guess, really angry that his people, his Secret Service people, would not let him go to the Capitol. And there was like this whole little like scenario in the car, like where he's like grabbing the wheel from behind. And
does he even know how to drive?
I don't know.
And then maybe he even tried to choke the guy with his tiny little hands. Like,
yes,
I'm just imagining The Rock being choked by like a 12-year-old hands. Like, like, stop it, sir. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, her testimony was really, really quite damning.
Yeah. Well, we also found out I loved that we got to hear a little bit about like hissy fits he throws. Like he throws food at the wall a lot.
Yeah. Right.
He's real emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, if you have really looked up anything about Trump, that's not a surprise. He's always been this explosive, angry person who is barely polished on TV. He loves violence. I mean, can you tell us about what he was like in wrestling? I don't know very much about that.
He was only in wrestling for him and Vince McMahon are like buddies. But he wasn't really. He showed up for like WrestleMania. I was in basic training during this period, so I've kind of gone back and seen it. So I don't know a bunch about it. They had a hair versus hair match. Of course, Donald won. Oh, well, he didn't actually fight. He had someone represent him. He had what was his name? Who he's still wrestling too. I can't remember his name. It's it doesn't matter. So they won. But at the end, Stone Cold gave him a stunner. Everyone cheered, and it was over.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, man, maybe I want to kind of hear any, like, he give wrestling speeches, like the real.
Well, I mean, I think he showed up on TV a couple times. But like Vince always put him in a good light. Even a couple years later, they had like these. He hired some actors to play. One played Rosie O'Donnell, and one played Donald Trump. And they got in an altercation in the ring. It was probably one of the lowest points in the show. Yeah, it was one of the lowest points, and kind of like this is not good. Like, why are you doing this? Like, this is already a carny show. You're just making it more of a sideshow as it is.
Yeah,
I love wrestling. I did not like that. I was that was terrible.
So a couple other things we learned from Cassidy Hutchinson is at the Save America rally or whatever, they had these what are called mags, which are just basically metal detectors. And Trump was furious because they were taking people's weapons away, and he wanted them to take the mags down because he wanted his people to still be armed. So he even knew that they had spears, was my favorite on the list, but also horrified. They had spears. Which of these militias was training like they're the 300? Who was from Sparta?
That one dude wearing the horns and the furs out there.
Oh yeah, but that's like his shtick.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley is the guy's name I'm trying to think of who fought for Trump.
And now he's just gone away and like hid because he feels yucky.
No, he's still a wrestler. He's he's a former world champion. He won last year's WrestleMania.
He just needed to get out from under Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's the almighty Bob Lashley. You've seen him before, like when I was living there. I think I pointed him out. He's a big black dude, bald, muscular.
I think I vaguely remember him.
Yeah, he's jacked. Yeah.
I vaguely remember wrestling things.
Yeah.
It gets a vague spot in my.
I feel you. I understand.
So as Jill mentioned, he did want to go to the Capitol, and he did try to assault his own Secret Service agent to take him there, but obviously he can't overpower anybody, so it didn't happen. He also, like, they had a lot of trouble with his speech. Like, he went off script and became a lot more inflammatory. They had tried to tone it down, but that didn't work out, you know.
Oh yeah, he included a lot of stuff about Pence. That's
yeah, yeah, and also fight like hell, things like that. I just love that we found out about his violent outburst of like flipping tablecloths because he's not strong enough to flip a table. It just really funny to me. In my brain, whenever I get mad, I'm like always flipping improv tables. I'm like, so mad. And I'm just like, okay, improv tablecloth.
Have you ever stripped everything off a desk before? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it's totally satisfying.
Yeah.
I've definitely, I was in, okay, maybe one of the most violent outbursts I've ever had. Like, somebody was being horrible to me, and I was just like, I've got no more words, and I was raging, so I just shoved one of their things off the desk and turned around and left. That was satisfying. It was like one empty like rack for papers. It was like nothing, but it was very satisfying. So I can imagine
to them, they got to pick it up now.
Yeah, that was basically my thought. Like, fine, we'll pick this up. That's how I felt about it. But to be fair, I do have traumatic brain injuries, so that was a pretty good like hold on my own anger issues. I don't, you know, it just comes with the territory when you bang your head a bunch. Let's see. Trump and his advisors talked about the white power terrorist groups, Proud Boys, and Oath Keepers at the rally. They were aware of the plans by insurgents to occupy federal buildings and so on. We learned that from her. We also learned that Rudy Giuliani asked for a pardon. So did Mark Meadows. And we also got to see the outtakes from his speech on the 7th, like the next day. And he's like, yesterday is a hard word for me. Take it out. Look at this. No, we're not going to say we're going to prosecute him to the full extent of the law. I already said they shouldn't have done that. That's good enough.
Yeah. I mean,
it should have done worse.
Yeah. You know, he wanted pardons for all of the insurgents too.
Mark Meadows came out looking really, really bad after her testimony.
Yeah.
You know, because like her whole thing with him was he was just basically she's trying to get him to, you know, do something, and he's just scrolling through his phone, you know, basically ignoring everything.
Like an emo teenager.
Yeah, right. And then there was one point where, like, when they were at the Save the America rally, like behind the scenes, you know, Mark Meadows was on the phone talking to somebody and in the car, and he wouldn't, like, he slammed the door on her. Like, he wouldn't let her in the car to, I guess, hear the the one side of the phone conversation that was his. Yeah. And it was like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. And
before she could communicate with him.
Yeah, because I needed him to make a decision about something. And Pat Cipollone's in her ear. Honestly, like, Pat Cipollone was right to come out. He came out and may have saved his own reputation a little bit. I mean, if you're a bad guy, he's like a good bad guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, good head on his shoulders for evil. But democratic evil, to be clear.
But how compromised Mark Meadows is because he wanted to go to the war room, right?
Yep.
And it was Cassidy Hutchinson who talked him out of, this was the night before.
Yeah, that's right.
Cassidy Hutchinson talked him out of going. She's like, yeah, no, you don't want to go there. Right.
Yeah.
But he was going to go.
Yeah.
He was going to go. So not looking good for him.
Yeah. We also learned from her that when they were saying hang Mike Pence, that Trump said, maybe Mike Pence deserves it.
Yeah.
That's a kitty cat.
Yeah, sorry guys, I got a cat in here. She's very talkative.
the committee also learned of attempts at witness tampering. Vice Chair Liz Cheney said these were statements made to witnesses. What they said to me is, as long as I continue to be a team player, that they know I'm on the right side. I'm doing the right thing. I'm protecting who I need to protect. I'll continue to stay in good graces in the front of the world. And they have reminded me a couple times that Trump does read transcripts, and just keep that in mind as I proceed through my interviews with the committee. The person who this was, receiving the influential threats from, the person let me know, you have your deposition tomorrow. He wants me to let you know he's thinking about you. You're loyal and you're going to do the right thing when you go in for your deposition. And I just feel like this is just classic,
right?
Classic evil persuasive. It's almost like movie characters that you hear talking.
Right. Yeah. This is like a really bad, really bad Godfather movie or something. We have everything but the horse in the bed.
Well, so here's the thing, though. I haven't watched The Godfathers, but Trump literally has ties to the mob and the mafia. He has. It goes way back, and there's allegedly there's alleged
wannabe. He's a wannabe.
No, but he did hire them. When he was working his racket in his buildings to remove tenants and things like that, and intimidate people out of there that they wanted gone. Rudy Giuliani is the one who got to know all of them. So he did one thing to stop the mob, but really he got in with them. And and then we have people like Roger Stone, who are, shaking hands with the Proud Boys their whole life. So we're like, it really is this team of people with hands into all of these back channel violent groups. And that's why people are like, why does he keep getting away with it? Because he's using legitimate threats to the reason the 13-year-old girl who had been sexually assaulted by him, the reason she withdrew her testimony was intimidation. She was scared for her life, and it was legit. He can have people killed. That is not a joke. That is not an exaggeration. I believe with my own personal heart that he's absolutely had people killed who tried to cross him, which is why it makes it so much more evident. And that's why it's been so hard to get people to turn on him. And as you notice watching these hearings, nobody will directly say exactly what Trump said. They're like, I can't go that far. They're scared for their lives, and their lives are literally in danger. And that's why they even moved up Cassidy Hutchinson's speech, because she was in so much danger and she was getting threats.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing we learned from Cassidy Hutchinson. When asked if he believes in the peaceful transfer of power, Mike Flynn pleaded the Fifth Amendment.
Yeah.
It's not something you plead the Fifth on, man.
Yeah. So somebody wrote
it is if you don't believe in the peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah. Well, his own people are saying he's a walking crime scene, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's pretty damning. Saying nothing is pretty damning than saying nothing. Saying something.
Yeah. And when you see him, he's very smug about it. He's like, I plead the Fifth. Sit back, cross my arms.
At the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the hearings live, Zach? I know you.
I did not. I kind of followed along on Twitter because a lot of it is during my work day.
Oh, did y'all hear this? Jared Kushner wrote that a former White House chief of staff shoved Ivanka Trump after Oval Office meeting. This came out recently. And it's in his upcoming book. So spoiler.
Whose upcoming book? Jared's writing a book?
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Of course. It's his turn. It's
right.
His turn. So it says Kushner, who is married to Trump, who's married to Ivanka, writes that Kelly was seen as a bully in the Trump White House whose temper was volatile like Jekyll and Hyde. This is talking about Chief of Staff John Kelly.
Okay. Kelly and Conway.
No, not Kellyanne Conway. No, man, she kind of disappeared out of nowhere, but then apparently she's still been doing a lot of stuff in the background. I'm curious about that lady. But yeah, like it says, quote, one day he had just marched out of a contentious meeting in the Oval Office. Ivanka was walking down the main hallway in the West Wing when she passes him. Unaware of his heated state of mind, she said, "Hello, Chief." And Chief shoved her out of the way and stormed by. She wasn't hurt and didn't make a big deal about the altercation, but in his rage, Kelly had shown his true character. He also writes that the retired 4-star Marine general offered a, quote, meek apology to Ivanka about an hour later. Like, what a pathetic little man. You're mad, so you wait until you see the like skinniest, meekest woman walk by who's definitely got no fight in her, and you just shove her to let off some steam. Like, can you imagine what his career's been like? I wonder how many of the subordinates he's had that he's just bullied like that. Probably.
How do you shove it? Do you go like the side shove or push?
I don't think he clotheslined her. I think probably just like with his arm to the side because they're crossing paths.
Right.
Like hello, and he's like, shut up. I don't know. I wonder how, like, is the way I'm saying that portraying like what the shove looks like to people who can't see me?
Is it side shove, full front shove?
Yeah. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty, it sounds like the more we hear about it and like this volatile meeting that was like almost a fist fights, it is, I just been trying to imagine what that West Wing looked like and how much shouting in New York, cussing and, other times people physically intimidated each other in that White House, like how unprofessional. And I mean, there are a bunch of people who believe in violence and they're all right with it. So,
well, and apparently it went on for like 6 hours. I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, not just that time though. I'm just talking about like overall.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had a fight club back there.
Yeah.
Right.
I pick I'm not Eastman. I pick Hirschman. That's who I got my money on. Hirschman on top.
Yeah.
Who do you pick?
I know I gotta go with the same. I go with Kellyanne Conway. She seems like she's kind of vicious.
She'd like, she probably do one of those like poison touch them that can like go through their skin. Like,
yeah.
All she's got to do is touch you. And then, you got anybody you want to pick in a like all out brawl in the Trump White House for a fight?
I'll take Pat Cipollone for 1,000.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm pretty certain that Eric Hirschman could handle him.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Just especially like seeing their body language. Like Cipollone, I would be more afraid. Like, even though Eric Hirschman's a lawyer, Cipollone seems like a sharper mind, and Eric Hirschman seems like more.
I'm going with the sharper mind, is what it is.
But Eric Hirschman is street.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one who like, you gonna keep talking to me like this, Mike Flynn? Why don't we fight? Mike Flynn, a retired general. Like, come on, buddy. And Mike Flynn didn't want any of it.
He thought it was above that.
I doubt that.
No.
I think he knew he'd get his butt kicked.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kellyanne Conway. Like, she seems like she'd be vicious in the fight. Like, no rules. Like,
I can see that. He's so breakable.
Yeah, she is pretty small.
Eric Hirschman being harder,
she's harder to hit then. She's harder to hit because she's small.
I don't know. Eric Hirschman being so street, I don't think he would take a chance. I think he would just take her out as fast as he could.
She's paper thin, so she kind of sway.
Like, it's like hitting bamboo. It just bends instead of breaks.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Some crazy, crazy stuff. So what are some of the things that you want more answers to? Like, for me, I want to see them finally follow up with the lead up, because like that article I was sharing and like, I'd been putting, like, I'm screaming into the universe, and like a whole, group of people. And obviously most of the people who were saying, here's all this evidence, like I've definitely sent evidence to the FBI. I'm not lying. Like, it's out there, and we sent it to them. And the FBI was all over TikTok because they were getting a ton of leads from it. And for me, I want to see more about all of their moves up to that date. We're only seeing the 1 month, but this is not something that was cooked up just post-election. This was prepared and ready for going into it. And there was no resistance. In fact, as we see, there are still loyal Secret Service agents out there who deleted their messages, so we couldn't even see their conversations. Mm-hmm. They're still loyal.
Yeah.
They're still in the government, and they all need to be exposed. I want to see that.
Maybe those are the agents that Hunter Biden's dogs bit.
Yes. Yeah. Dogs know.
I think I just want to see the accountability, like I want to see DOJ light a fire under themselves. And
I want to hear cuffs clicking.
Right.
I want to see some repercussions for these actions.
Yeah. Definitely. But I saw something where they were like, I don't know who, maybe like somebody in the Trump, like Trump world. I think they're like trying to use Mark Meadows as like the fall guy, but I don't know.
Interesting.
I think Meadows needs to make his deal and like spill the beans all on Trump. That's what he needs to do.
I want to see Steve Bannon testify. That's what I want to see.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was just looking at some Steve Bannon stuff, and
held in contempt of court 2 times because of he didn't show, he didn't supply any evidence. But
see, I don't know that Steve Bannon would like tell the truth under oath. I think he would just lie under oath too.
But I think that would give a lot of people the chance to see him. Like, people forget Steve Bannon also like friends with UK leaders, including Boris Johnson. So Steve Bannon is pretty influential in under the table negotiating and passing messages in effort to spread white supremacy and gain international support from, a lot of, I think that we forget sometimes how much Boris Johnson kind of likes Trump. Only I think he's much smarter. I think he does the messy hair thing to make him seem dopier. So that you don't. Yeah, he finally. Oh gosh! Oh, I should pull up. Can you pull up that exit speech, because it's classic?
Boris Johnson's next speech, okay?
Oh yeah. So I was looking earlier. Steve Bannon's own War Room podcast. They don't even sound confident on his defense against January 6 related contempt charges. One of the guests declared him guilty today and said, "What's left of Bannon's defenses? What's left to prove from this prosecution? Did you receive the subpoena? Did you respect the subpoena? Yes and no. Case closed." That was from lawyer David Freiheit. Like, this is not difficult. You didn't, like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
All right. I got the video up. It's 6 minutes long though.
Yeah. Maybe we could just play the last couple minutes where he really gets going.
So like the last from 4 minutes onwards.
Maybe like the last 3 minutes.
All right, we go to 3:15 right there.
So this is Boris Johnson peacing out from Parliament.
We should share sound. Sure.
And this is how you can know, like, how did this guy get into politics to begin with?
At Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful when the herd
moves.
Oh,
wait. To share computer audio, I actually had to install something and restart the thing. Can I share it to you or give it to you and you can play it?
Yeah. If you just drop it in the chat and I can.
Yeah. It involves me downloading something else, so let me not do that. I'd have to restart and leave. So yeah, I'll drop it in chat.
Yeah. Well, but it already looks like, speaking of, Steve Bannon, it looks like he is in a heap of trouble. So.
Oh yeah, no, contempt of court.
Yeah. But I think Meadows needs to testify, and I think then we're going to hear like a whole lot more.
Oh, this isn't the speech I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one in Parliament.
Oh, okay.
Where he's sitting down and he's like, "Hasta la vista, baby." And we're like, really?
I heard that. Yeah. I heard that part.
Yeah, here.
Here you go. Hasta la vista. It's a there we go. I got you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share it. I mean, of all the like great people to quote,
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, yeah, and this is only 2 minutes, so yeah, that's why I was like, I don't remember it being that long. And let me know.
I want to thank my right honourable friend. And I want to use the last few seconds, Mr. Speaker, to give some words of advice to my successor, whoever he or she may be. Number one, stay close to the Americans, stick up for the Ukrainians, stick up for freedom and democracy everywhere. Cut taxes and deregulate wherever you can to make this the greatest place to live and invest, which it is. I love the Treasury, but remember that if we'd always listened to the Treasury, we wouldn't have built the M25 or the Channel Tunnel. Focus on the road ahead. Focus on the road ahead, but always remember to check the rear view mirror. And remember, above all, it's not Twitter that counts. It's the people that sent us here. And yes, the last few years have been the greatest privilege of my life. And it's true that I helped to get the biggest Tory majority for 40 years and a huge realignment in UK politics, Mr. Speaker. We've transformed our democracy and restored our national independence, as my right honourable friend says. I've helped to get this country through a pandemic and help save another country from barbarism. And frankly, that's enough to be going on with. Mission largely accomplished. For now, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank all the wonderful staff of the House of Commons. I want to thank all my friends and colleagues. I want to thank my right honourable friend opposite, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank everybody here, and hasta la vista, baby. Thank you.
God. Oh my God.
Oh my God, how did that guy get this job? So I did want to say a couple more things about Bannon, but that's just maybe the funniest exit speech from a politician I've ever heard.
Yeah.
What a goober. What to say about that speech? It's just and plus, the guy, he just wouldn't leave office. They're like, "You're fired." And he's like, okay, I'll step down in a minute after.
He had so many votes of no, he's narrowly avoided so many votes of no confidence, and they finally got him in this last one.
Yeah. Just ridiculous. That's what fraternities get you. Morons like that. But so former chief strategist Steve Bannon, he's once again in court on contempt charges stemming from his refusal to testify. The topic in question, obviously. So although Bannon resisted testifying, he also threatened to, quote, go medieval on U.S. lawmakers and ignite a, quote, firestorm over the 2020 election. That Trump loss, got to make sure it's always there. Leaked audio also revealed that he pushed Trump to declare victory, even though Bannon himself didn't seem to believe in that statement. And it's no wonder that people call him a coup plotter. As it turns out, Bannon's War Room podcast has continued and is absent. And it sure seems like right-wing lawyer David Freiheit doesn't see any way Bannon can squirm out of it. So that's who that quote I was reading from. So it's his show getting taken over, and they're like, he's not going to be back. This guy, he's doomed. Case closed. It's ridiculous. So we are coming close to the end of the show. I did want to mention, I don't know if y'all heard about this, but there's a big monkeypox outbreak in New York City. There's actually rising monkeypox cases in like a few concentrated areas in the country. And it just reminds me again of why aren't our vaccines free? Why aren't all vaccines free? All of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't even think, I don't know that they even have enough of the monkeypox to go around, the monkeypox vaccine.
Yeah, I think it's, as of yesterday, it was like nearly 3,300 cases, which is absurd because didn't we almost beat monkeypox?
I don't think it ever truly went away like in like Africa or places like that,
Or like bed bugs, like we all thought it was gone.
Yeah.
It's like
until we ignored it and we bring it back, like ignore vaccines.
That's what it is. I mean, it's like, even if you like think, oh well, Africa's very far away and has nothing to do with us, you let these viruses like, keep mutating.
Yeah.
Generation after generation, and it's going to spread. It's going to figure out a way to get to everyone.
It's also people not getting vaccines, like the polio. People just not getting vaccines. Like they distrust them for whatever reason, even though we have clear examples of like, polio was pretty much eradicated.
So forget about it. Hasta la vista, baby.
But vaccines, no, it causes autism. It doesn't cause autism, but it doesn't cause autism. But I mean, was the belief, and that really hurt the cause.
It's really quite offensive, like how scared some parents are of, like autism. More scared than like their kids getting deadly viruses or like having like severely terrible lives. Like autism, honestly, it's been around. We just didn't have a name for it, just like many, many other things that we hadn't diagnosed yet. And it's not that big a deal. It's just another way that people function in the world. And the only thing disabling about it is the way we treat them. If you provide accommodations for people, most things in this world are like most differences people have. Those aren't disabilities. The disabling comes from society's, like, by not putting closed captions on everything. You were disabling people who can't hear from being able to participate in TV, and that's why it should be there. Just things like that. It's called the social method of looking at disabilities. By the way, if you want to go look that up, it was really kind of a huge change from my perspective, because I was like, oh, I'm disabled, and a deaf person's like, no, you're being disabled by society. Like the things that are different about you, like there's nothing wrong with you. It's fine. We're all different. And whatever those differences are, in some we accommodate and some we do not. And, I think there's a lot to be said for looking at it in that perspective. Yeah. Awesome. So anybody else have anything else to say before we go ahead and close out the show?
Well, looking forward to season 2.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something that just came through the news in the past hour, but I mean, it's a big topic
What is it? Let's get a.
So House narrowly passes assault weapons ban legislation. 2 Republicans voted yes, and 5 Democrats voted no. So 208 Republicans voted against it.
So, but they still passed it?
They still passed it.
What is it banning?
Assault weapons.
It prohibits the sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession of semi-automatic assault weapons and large capacity magazines. Now it's going to go towards the Senate, which is probably not going to.
No. And, and I know this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but at the state of the country right now, where we have people who are literally declaring they want Civil War II, and they are loaded up with weapons, I don't want to ban them right now. I think people might need to protect themselves soon. What I would rather see is background checks. And I would like to see, hold times, a psych eval. Let's get some safety training. Let's change the age groups. I don't want to tighten up on the sale of semi-automatic rifles right now. There's just too many of them out there for me to feel comfortable stopping the sales of them right now. And that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's not gonna pass. It's not gonna pass the Senate anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you want to get rid of high capacity stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be hugely surprised if it does.
Yeah.
But I want the assault weapons ban. I just don't think it's good for our society to have.
I definitely don't want children to have them.
Weapons of war. Yeah.
But the thing is, weapons of war are already in the hands of millions of right-wing militias.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Millions of them. They're that big. They're that widespread. And to me, disarming people who are not in part of militias, it's not
I'm like, hey, they don't have the weapons now.
Yeah, it's going to leave people to slaughter. That's my perspective. But I also was trained with weapons, and so I've used them. And but in the military, we go through. You got to get an FBI background check. They do a basic psych eval. You've got to go through severe training before you can put your hands on them. You don't even get to keep them with you all the time. You have to re-qualify over and over again. I think we should have it at least that difficult. And if we can slowly wean them out, fine. But our country's too unstable right now for me to feel comfortable with. Just, I don't know. That's me. And we can definitely do a show on a weapons discussion. I think that would be a good show to do.
Yeah.
But as a leftist, once you go past liberal, you get further leftist, you get your guns back. That's what we always say. You get so. But yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Next week, we do have a double header. We will be joined by a few people. We will have Hannah E. Epstein and Anna Rose E. Epstein and Victoria Herring. We will be talking about legalizing marijuana worldwide and how it is a medical crisis, a worldwide medical crisis, by keeping this amazing medical plant away from people. And also we'll be talking about some of the major important political things going on in Hawaii, since we don't often hear about them on mainstream media. And a lot of people just don't know what's happening there. So we're going to do a double feature on that. And then hopefully the week after will be incels, but we will also be having come up in a discussion from theologians on all of the political moves right now being done by the Christian dominionists and evangelicals. So we'll be hearing from an ex-evangelical pastor and hopefully a rabbi and a couple other people. But stay tuned. We've got a lot of really great projects coming up and topics. And have a good night. I do want to tell you, the band we're talking about today is a band called... I hope I say this right. It is Fauzia. No, how do you pronounce this? Fauzia. Faouzia. Fauzia. It's a Canadian band, and they're super great. They're actually going to be, they're on world tour right now. They're in the Montreal Oshega Festival this week, but they will be going to Egypt later this month, or later in August, as well as Dubai. But then they'll be back in the States in Minneapolis, October 15th, and then Chicago on October 16th. And a few other places. So definitely check them out. They're, again, to spell the name, it is Faouzia. And this song is called Tears of Gold. So we'll see you next time in other news.
Mama always told me that I was too naive, gave away my trust for pennies. I said, don't you worry, didn't think that I'd be broken down. Help me, wrecked, heart and dead. All you do is come around, just came here to collect. Wrecked, heart and dead. Don't you know that I cried tears of gold for you? I sit here. Collect my pennies and my dimes. That's why you love it when I cry. Platinum love for you. I'd give it no less for you. Generosity is my enemy, so I'm broken. Your heart hurts because of me. this is my fault. Gave a little too much, knew that this was gonna happen. But I'm not gonna lie, you can make me cry 1,000 times. So come on it back, like what is going on with my head? Red, hot and dead. All you do is come around your skin you to collect. Red, hot and dead. Don't you know that I cried tears of gold for you? I sit here for you. Like my pennies and my dimes. That's why you love it when I cry. Platinum love for you. I'd give it no less for you. Generosity is my enemy, so I'm broken your heart breaks because of me. And those bodies that do it all over again. Those bodies that know it's never gonna end. Keep coming right back like a maniac. I keep coming right back like and those bodies that do it all over again. Those bodies that know it's never gonna end. Keep coming right back like a maniac. I cried tears on the ground for you. I sit here for you. Like my pennies and my dimes. That's why you love it when I cry. Platinum love for you. I'd give it no less for you. Generosity is my enemy, so I'm broken your heart hurts because of me.
It's time to choose. Why not?
Okay, we are off the air.
All right.
Awesome. That's a good song.
Yeah.
That was a good song. I enjoyed it very much so.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for joining, and I have to go pee really bad. It
You're
is.
still
Yeah,
alive.
I gotta go eat. I'm so hungry.
So,
I gotta go with Young.
yeah, I feel like we covered everything pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Hope it was organized enough.
Yeah, you're still live on YouTube.